Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Now What Show. I'm your host, Amber Christian, editor of Handmade Seller Magazine, and today it is my absolute privilege to welcome Darcy to the show. So, Darcy, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your business?
Sure. Thanks, Amber. Thanks so much for having me on today. I'm the owner of Preserving My Sanity, which is a natural living lifestyle blog that a year ago I added a handcrafted goat milk soap shop to. So I make a variety of handcrafted goat milk soap and sell it in my shop.
hmm Okay, so preserving my sanity, which I think most of us feel like we're trying to do all the time, right? Going on in the world. So tell us a little more about the origin of the original blog, Preserving My Sanity, that led to then later the creation of the goat milk soap business.
Sure. So I actually started my blog in 2018. The name Preserving My Sanity is kind of a play on words because primarily what I blog about originally was food preservation. So
Mhm.
I do my husband and I grow a garden and do a lot of preserving of foods, and he does a lot of hunting and fishing. So we do, some preserving of meats, and so my blog started as a way to share some of those things with everyone. Um, and it's also because I enjoy doing it, and that's where the sanity part comes in. Um, so that's what I've been doing since 2018. And then part of my theme with my blog has always been to learn by doing and learn new things, and don't be afraid to try it. A lot of people are afraid to pressure can things because what if it explodes, and all of these fears. And so I've always tried to kind of put that into my content that if you learn about it, follow the directions, and pay attention, like you don't have to be scared of it. And so, as part of that, I'm also always trying to learn new things. And one of the things I wanted to learn how to do was make soap. So it was probably about 2 years ago. I met a woman at a craft show who teaches soap making classes. And I was like, well, there's my sign. I've been wanting to learn how to do this for a while, and I was scared of the lie, and I was scared of hurting myself, and all of these things. And so I practiced what I preached, and I signed up for her class. And it sort of escalated from there. My original plan was to learn how to make unscented soap for myself to use, and I just really enjoyed it, and eventually decided to open a shop.
Mhm. I think that could be a tagline for so many artisan businesses. It just escalated from there. It so often too, when other people discover what we're doing, do you find when we're doing the thing, you don't really recognize how special it is until outside people start to observe how special the thing is that you are doing? And I think that's been a big epiphany, and I also appreciate being able to talk to a fellow Minnesotan and a fellow canner because I'm a canning nerd.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
my my part of my whole shtick too. So I was like, oh, we could have our own podcast, The Canning Chronicles, but it could be all about that. But it is. I didn't even realize with that one that I do that one as a pop up food business periodically, and so not a regular business, but I didn't realize how special it was until people would consume it and I would see the look on their face when they ate it. And I was like, oh. And so then you start to find that people recognize how special it was. How did that start for you with the goat milk soap? Because it started escalating from there. And I suspect people started catching wind of what you were up to and trying the product. So talk a little bit more about that. Because that was that journey from, hey, I'm making it for myself as this nice product to now other people are starting to find out about it. So can you
Yeah,
speak more to that?
sure. Yeah, so when I started learning how to make the soap, there was a monthly membership that was offered that had like a monthly project. And so I started making soap every month and pretty quickly realized that it was, the shelf was building with all this soap. And I was like, okay, well, we only use a few bars of soap a month because goat's milk soap, when you cure it properly, it lasts a really long time actually. One bar of soap can last you quite a while. And so the shelves were piling up a little bit of the soap that I had available. And I actually, it was right around Christmas time. And so I gave a bunch of soap away to I also have a marketing business, so I gave a bunch of soap away to my marketing clients, and then I gave some to my family members. And at that time, still, I didn't really have any plan on selling it. And it was a few months after that where, yeah, after everyone had gotten their gifts and used them, people started messaging me and saying, "Hey, I really love that soap you gave me. How can I get more? Or are you going to sell that? Or what are your plans with this soap?" So that sort of started planting the seeds of, oh yeah, I guess I could sell this. I guess people would buy this.
Hmm.
So it was really probably about like a year after I started making it that I actually had all the pieces in place to start selling. But yeah, that definitely wasn't the intention from the start.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Yes. Yes. It's so many artists and businesses that escalated from here and on they go and continue to develop it into a business. And so that's interesting that you gave it to people and they're like, oh, cool. And then they try it and then like, but I want more. And and that's such a nice way to start though, right? What a
mhm.
compliment to have people say, "Hey, hey, hey, where can I buy this?"
How can I get some more of this? Yeah.
And you're like, well, should I let you know when I'm doing my next batch?" I mean, and also you can only take so many showers. So, as a human, you can only use so much soap
Right.
yourself.
Right.
Oh, so it feels like a great way to do it.
Well, and then,
Oh, sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
well, I was just going to say, yeah, and the supplies, you have to buy all the supplies too. So at a certain point, you're like, well, I love sharing this and I like giving it to people, but like it costs money to make it too. And so at a certain point, I guess it just sort of naturally makes sense to start selling it because, otherwise you're just buying supplies and giving things away, and that's not that sustainable. So
Right.
that's not
Now,
sustainable at all, actually. So
no. No, it can be fun for a little while, but definitely not sustainable. So when you gave the gifts away, did you add scent to it, or did you keep it as the original unscented product that you had started with?
So most of what I gave away was unscented because I had made quite a few unscented batches first, and so that was mostly what I had when that particular holiday season came up. But I had some, I think it was like a lemongrass essential oil soap that I
Hmm.
had made, and that some people got that as well. So it was a little bit of both, I guess.
Hmm. So now, when that moment came and you said, "Okay, I think I'm going to actually try to monetize this, and I'm going to start selling it," how did you go about the process when you first got started? How did you figure out, well, where am I going to sell? What am I going to do? Tell me a little more about how you thought about that.
Sure. I guess I was lucky in some ways because in a lot of ways because I already had my Preserving My Sanity website set up, and I know how to build websites and I know how to do like all of the marketing pieces. So I had that advantage where I didn't have to go out and hire someone to help me, which can get expensive as a startup business. So I was actually able to just add the online store to my existing website.
Mm.
Um, Relatively quickly. So
Mhm.
I I just started doing that, and then kind of along those same lines, I already had social media accounts for my blog. So I added the soap into it. So I already had an audience of people that had been following me for several years. So the soap was just kind of a new thing I had to share.
Yeah, what a nice way to start though too, right? Because whenever you're adding a new component to business, there's a certain amount of overwhelm. There's a lot of pieces you have to take care of, right? And
Hmm.
building an audience on top of it. And so, what was cool about what you did is already having so much of that there. You already had at least some built in audience, which is, it's really hard to go from, we talk about from 0 to 1, right? Of to building that first audience. But if you can start at one, it's a lot easier to
Yeah.
grow and build that repeat business. And so, all the years of writing Preserving My Sanity really helped because now you had this built-in audience that would at least be curious enough to go look at the product, if nothing else, if not
Yeah,
buy
or
it.
maybe share a post with their friends, or if anything like that helps. So absolutely.
Absolutely. So you started out initially just selling through your existing audience, which is a great way to start. How else have you been starting to think about where you want to sell this and kind of where it's going to fit in your life? So walk me through what else you're thinking about as you're kind of thinking about growing this.
Sure. Well, about 6 months ago, I also added my products to Etsy. So I have an Etsy shop as well. Everything that's on my website is also there. So I've had some new customers coming in through that. I also am in a local, I have some of my products in a local consignment store that's about 30 miles away. So that's been really fun to see, their customers interested in my products. I actually have my products in a store in Wyoming. A friend of mine owns a gift shop in Wyoming, and so I have some soap out there in Lander.
Hmm.
So the stores are kind of a fun way to get the product out there. And I'm also um, doing a few shows here and there. I'm not planning to do a lot of in-person vendor events, but like this year I did 3 shows, and I'm hoping to do at least one holiday show as well. So I'm planning to do like maybe 3 to 4 or so shows a year.
Hmm. So you're doing a blended balance of push what I have online, so a little bit of my own website and Etsy to give you that flexibility, and or if you ever decide you don't want the Etsy shop, then you've already got the built-in website, and then a little bit of gift shop. It sounds like kind of strategically as it comes up, as opposed to trying to really push it through those channels. So kind of a blended balance of all of them. It sounds like is kind of how you're approaching it to start, as opposed to
So,
saying all your eggs in one basket. You kind of have them in a few different places so far.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I think it's just so unpredictable. You could plan on selling, you know, $1,000 worth of products at a craft show. That's a really big craft show, and you get there and it's not the right crowd, or people for some reason aren't buying soap that day, or whatever it might be. Like, yeah, you definitely don't want to you don't want to be counting on just one avenue. So I am planning to reach out to some more stores for 2025. But so far, I guess this year I was just kind of figuring things out, I guess you'd say, and just kind of seeing what happened. So yeah, trying a little bit of everything.
Mhm. Well, and establishing your baseline the first year, and there's
Hmm.
so many other things you're figuring out with the business, and then as it goes from there, then you start to see, okay, well, am I able to, let's say, develop repeat business that moves from the craft fair to online? Or how am I, there's a lot of things you're still figuring out in that first year. And so you can't really go gangbusters on any one channel while you're doing the sampling. And then with the economy, the way it has been this year, too, a lot of what I've been hearing from people is that craft fairs attendance is about the same, but spending has been down this year. And that's just the broader economy that
Yep.
we've been facing here. And so it's having a balanced strategy has been necessary for a lot of businesses because you don't quite know which channel, so to speak, for selling is going to perform at any time. So how do you think about your process of developing products? So your year in, or even that first year, how did you guess what scents to start with? And like, how did you start figuring these first little pieces out?
Yeah. That's a fun question because it's really very overwhelming to decide, especially what scents of soap to make, because there are several really good supply companies that you can buy them from, and they all have, dozens and hundreds of choices. And so one thing I've learned is that something that sounds amazing to me that I really like might not actually be what sells the best. So it's been sort of trial and error, I guess, just kind of figuring out what sells really well. I have made a lot of different scents in the past year, which going forward, I'll probably start paring that down a little bit once I figure out what everybody really likes and things. There won't always be 60 kinds in my shop. Um, but people do like the choices too. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I would say it's just kind of been trial and error, really, to sort of find my own best sellers. And I think it's really different for different parts of the country and different
Mhm.
makers and different, like what's my bestseller isn't somebody else's bestseller. So it's just been kind of a learning process.
Hmm.
A
Yeah,
really a really nice smelling learning process.
yeah, that's the good part. At least it smells nice, in your process. But you're right. In different parts of the country, different times of year, different scents will sell. And so you really took that first year to kind of figure my processes out, start to trial it, develop a few different places to sell it. And now this year, it sounds like it's a little bit more of, okay, well, I'm not going to have 60 cents of soap. I've done a lot of experimenting this year. Is all right, let's see what's actually selling the best. And
Hmm.
especially now, um, did you add a lot of those scents recently, or have you had a lot of scents since the very beginning?
Kind of as time goes on, I've added some. I didn't start out with a lot when I opened my shop. I maybe had 15 kinds or something when I launched my store. Um, I've done seasonal launches. So last fall, there was a fall collection and a holiday collection. And then this year, I did spring, summer, and I just recently launched fall again. So um, some of the things, it is nice to see like what I've learned because like for my fall collection, there were a couple things I made last year that didn't sell as well. So I just didn't make those again. And the ones that sold really well last year, I was like, okay, well, I need to make, this many of this kind because they sold out in the first 2 weeks last year or whatever. So it is nice to have that, um, I guess, experience under my belt. So I
Hmm.
know a little, and it is a little experience under my belt, but it also is different. I'm also noticing like what people loved last year maybe isn't selling this year or vice versa.
Mm.
So you never know.
Yeah, well, you may have to retire certain scents and then bring them back,
It's
in
like a
so many
special edition
years.
or something. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and all of these businesses is about what you can sell at different times and that people are interested in, and tastes change, and just there's so many factors to it. And the nice part is with some of those first 15, as you start to build a little bit more data, now, especially with the same scents that you had early on, to see, okay, are those same scents still selling? Is it changing? The longer you go, the more you can actually start to compare sales data, right? And start to
Yeah.
say, okay, what does it what is the audience gravitating toward? Um, and so you learn a lot just in that whole process, and then you can kind of refine it and go from there,
Absolutely.
in your kind of your slimmed down set, because it's a lot of inventory to carry
It is.
that much of the other stuff. So yeah, it's always fascinating hearing from people in those early years, like, how you figuring this stuff out? Because for every little business, it's different. And it's
Yeah.
a combination of their local market, where they're at, the broader economic trends, but their audiences, what they're making, what they're learning, and so much these little things called businesses.
For sure.
All right. So now tell me, where can the audience find you if they'd like to follow you on socials, learn a little bit more about preserving my sanity? How do they find you on social media?
Sure. I'm primarily on Facebook and Instagram, at Preserving My Sanity. So it's the same on both platforms. I'm also on Pinterest, if anybody's over there. But yes, I'm at Preserving My Sanity, everywhere, actually.
Ah, fantastic. So you heard it here. Now you can go look for preserving my sanity, which will just be fun even just to type in. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Darcy. It's an absolute pleasure being able to talk with you today and nerd out a little bit more with fellow Minnesotan. So thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you everyone for joining us. And we will see you next time.